Eli and I are back here to discuss
Embryology.
Which is the study of
Embryos.
All right. So this picture right here is a pretty famous picture. You'll see it a lot. It's often used to talk about embryos and how they're similar.
They are so cute.
While they do look similar on the surface, embryology and the way that it supports evolution goes much deeper than what this picture shows. So it can often be kind of a false narrative here with that picture.
A baby turtle. It's something like that without any shell and then turn to that.
It's more about, in the very early stages, how embryos develop all similarly. So before these like drawings are even a reality, we are similar at a much more fundamental level than that. So an embryo is an unborn or unhatched animal. The embryos of all animals are very similar, especially in those very early stages and early days. So all animals will start out as a tiny ball of cells. This ball we call a blastula, and it specifically consists of 100 cells. So as the embryo, or as the cells are dividing and replicating, they all come to this hollow ball of cells called a blastula, consisting of 100 cells. Then what happens is that a tube has to develop to become the digestive tract. So that will either form a protostome or a deuterostome. So in a protostome, a mouth forms from the tube, but in the deuterostome, an anus forms. So they're slightly different, but fundamentally, all of these steps in those first couple of days are the same. I think I'm a hilarious person, so I found these jokes on the internet. If you want to just take a quick look, laugh, because I'm so funny, but I can't take credit for them. Because there are embryologic similarities, because we all came from very, very millions of years ago, a similar or a common ancestor, there are things that will be the same during formation. So, for example, the cartilage from fish gills is used to form the reptilian jaw or the inner ear bones in a mammal. So all embryos at some stage will have these gill slits. And as the embryo develops, they'll form into different structures. So like I said, in a reptile, it'll become their jaw. In a mammal, it'll become our inner ear bones. Another example would be bird wings. They are tetrapods, which means four, so that they have 4 limbs. So like, for example, we're tetrapods. And birds have a 5-digit, so like 5 fingers, 5 toes, limb, but in the adult, it transforms into 3. And you can kind of see that picture here. Not because because they're different, but because the bones are being reabsorbed or reformed, fused into longer digits. So you can kind of see that up here. The green is the humerus, so you notice that all these organisms, the batwing, the bird, the, what is that? Seal limb and the human all have a humerus. We all have a radius and an ulna, and we also have 5 digits or phalanges, but in the bird, they're just shortened. In a bat, they're extended. So it just kind of depends during that development what happens to them. Another example is teeth in whales. So you've got the orca whale here, as well as a baleen whale here. So there are forms of toothless whales, not because they don't ever have teeth, but because the embryos develop teeth, but then are actually reabsorbed to form that baleen, that structure where they can filter feed, essentially. And I've got a quote here that I think is pretty applicable to this homology. It says, it's like baking 3 chocolate cakes. You take each cake and shape one into a square, a circle, or a triangle. Then you use different colored icing and decorations, creating variation in the finished cakes. But originally, they were all the same chocolate cake. And that's the same thing here. Originally, we're all the same embryos, but at some point, we start to differentiate into different things. It's just an example I was saying. There's no actual chocolate cake, sadly. So here are some more examples. You can see here we've got those gill slits that are going to form into different things. And here you can see that the different levels form different things. So this is our embryonic development. The red would form our inner ear bones, and the blue and green start to form that hyoid and that larynx, so where your voice box essentially. You can see the baleen here, those filter feeders, and the teeth that have been reabsorbed when they do, when they basically dissect a whale. In addition to forming the same way from that blastula, that 100-cell ball, there are also different layers that all form into different things. You have an endoderm, a mesoderm, and an ectoderm. Endo means inner, meso means middle, and ecto means outer, like in an ectoskeleton. The inner layer, or endoderm, is what's going to form the digestive and respiratory tract in animals that have those features. The mesoderm will form the muscles, the circulatory system, and the reproductive system, while the ectoderm forms more your sense organs, your nerves, and your skin. So all of that is going to be the same in organisms that have those different systems. Here's just another example. Here's that 100-ball cell that we call a blastula. Then as the organism goes through gastrulation, which is just that differentiation, you can see that they kind of form these outer and start to form the inner layers that come up. So you've got the endoderm, the ectoderm, and then inside of that would be your mesoderm, or in between that, excuse me. And that is basically the end of the embryology section. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me. Let me know what you guys are thinking, how evolution is going, that kind of stuff.